Hello, Internet! Welcome to a new place. So exciting. It's me again, the girl with the funny accent, and today I have part 3. Yes, part 3 with my freakishly far apart fingers of my romance genre case studies. I'm so excited because today's video is on fantasies, which is my personal favorite genre, or as I like to call it, where the hell did that come from? I love fantasy so much. This shirt was an accident. I have so many of these. So let's talk about some fantasy movies. I'm going to be talking about these 5 movies. I think most of them are pretty well known or based on pretty well known stories, but I will be spoiling them, so fair warning. Of these 5 movies, only 2 of them ended up together and 3 of them were unnecessary. But one of the unnecessary romances has a bunch of sequels, so I'm not too worried about it. But what I really want to talk about today is the fact that all 5 of the romances were distracting. And I don't necessarily mean that these romances were bad, I just mean that they either didn't have anything to do with the plot, or there were moments that just jumped out at you and it was really weird. It had me thinking, is this a thing with fantasies? Because you've got dragons chasing you and you've got to run away, so you've got to streamline all the subplots. Is that why it seems to rush through so quickly? When I was watching these movies, I just kept asking this question over and over and over again. Where the hell did that come from? A lot of these moments just jump out at you and punch you in the face and you think to yourself, what? Whoa. And so this is what I need to talk about. So a couple of these are parodies. Obviously Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a parody of fantasy genre itself. The romance scene I'm going to talk about isn't a romance, but it's even mentioned in the script that it was essentially obligatory. It's like we were really worried about the scene when they were writing it, but we're really glad we get to do it anyway. It's essentially when Galahad gets to this castle full of women, they don't even have time to register that this human has a penis before they immediately want to jump his bones. But that's where the comedy comes from, and it's really just about him resisting the temptation but not really wanting to resist the temptation, and it's hilarious. But again, that's why it's funny. In the other parody of the romance in The Princess Bride, this is where I first noticed this trend, because I don't know, did I get it into my head that there was more at the beginning of this story than there actually is? Because in the movie, Buttercup and Wesley fall in love when he stands up and gives her the smolder. She figures out that as you wish means I love you so quickly. And it's like, yeah, he's sexy now. In this case, Wesley and Buttercup falling in love was not the story they were trying to tell. This whole falling in love plotline is really just exposition to set up the plot that comes later. But when you get it into your head that there's more to that there, it's so jarring. And I was like, wait, that's it? And I'm wondering if I'm going crazy thinking that I remember more about this scene than there was. Now, in the Fellowship of the Ring, there's a similar deal. Arwen and Aragorn already know each other. They're already in some sort of relationship. Their falling in love isn't a plot, it's a reveal to the audience. Every scene they're in together, you uncover a little bit more intimacy when they meet each other. It seems like they're familiar with each other, but they don't necessarily know each other, and the only clue you really get is the hand brush and the lingering looks, and you think, oh, they're attracted to each other. It doesn't stand out as weird because it's very clear that they're familiar with each other and they might have been attracted to each other before. So whatever, they move on their way. The next time you see the 2 of them alone together, Aragorn is worried that he's going to become just like his ancestors, and she's reassuring him that he is in fact different. And this scene is really sweet, it's tender, and you kind of get that real closeness between them. There's a trust there. And then you immediately jump into the scene where she's like, oh, I said I'd give up my immortality for you. And since those first 2 scenes are baby steps towards the reveal of their relationship, the jump off point to when they finally kiss, it seemed like a leap. Not a bad leap, but it comes out of nowhere a little bit and threw me off for a second. But that doesn't make the romance any less sweet and the movie any less good. It's so good. Now, Arwen and Aragorn's story continues on into the rest of the Lord of the Rings movies, but as you get into movies where the romances themselves, the getting together is self-contained, you start to notice things that might be completely weird. Take Alice in Wonderland, which his protectiveness of her makes sense because he's known her forever. He met her when he was a child, which is creepy on its own, by the way, but he knows her. He's protective of her. She's just as protective of him almost immediately, and they just met. It's so strange that, you know, one second she's like, no, let me out of here. The next second she's like, we have to save the Hatter. What? And so you think that this is all kind of on her side. He's imprisoned because of me and I can't live with myself because of that. Okay, sure, fine. He shows he cares for her by commenting on her height, saying, if only you weren't too large or too small, or oh, finally you're the right size, and it sounds like a preamble to a kiss that never happens, which places their relationship firmly into romance territory. But as far as she's concerned, they just met. This closeness, this instinctive trust I've mentioned in these videos before, it seems like it happened far too quickly. Oh, side note on that movie, it bothers me so much that they call the monster the Jabberwocky. It's the Jabberwock. I want to punch the screen every single time. So finally we get a romance that actually is a romance. It's billed as a romance. It goes through the motions of a romance. That's right, I put myself through the torture. Let's talk about Twilight. Twilight being a romance, the plotline wasn't distracting because that was the plot. There were elements of it, especially coming from her side, because we've talked about Edward being creepy way too many times. We're not going to talk about it again here. Let's think about Bella for a second. She's so weird. Their entire relationship, up to the point where she finds out that he's a vampire, is meet, hang out, go to dinner, never leave me again. Well, that escalated quickly. I mean, think about it. The dinner they went on wasn't explicitly a date, and yet had that kind of romantic, flirty subtext, but every interaction they had before that was explicitly friendship. So when she finds out that he's a vampire, and then she's like, I don't care, I love you, it comes right out of left field. Yes, you know there's a romance, you expect it because it's billed as a romance, but if you actually look at the character interactions, they're platonic. And at the end of the movie, where he's very protective of her when she's being chased by the evil vampires, that makes sense because he's put her in this dangerous situation and he feels bad, he's gonna get her out of it. Her side, no, don't ever leave me, you can't leave me, please don't ever leave me again. It's like, you just met. The school year isn't even over, it's not even prom. If we take the storyline by my brother's prom date. My brother's prom is on the 28th of April. And she explicitly says she moves to Forks in March. The longest they could have known each other is a month to a month and a half. Don't ever leave me again? Really? But it wasn't even really clear that they were flirting or that they liked each other until she was suddenly, or what does she say? Unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. Seriously. She doesn't even mention liking him before. She thinks he's pretty and they go to dinner and that's it. You don't notice it when you watch it first because it's billed as a romance and it's not a great movie, but when you really look at things... So that's my discussion on romance tropes in fantasies. I feel like that was just like a long continuous rant, but I'm very passionate about fantasies. I love them so much. But since I've come to the end, it is time to award my favorite couple award. In the movies as they were, didn't ship a single couple. And that's mostly because the romances were either comedic, too weird, or just didn't take up enough time for me to care, like Arwen and Aragorn. Now, Arwen and Aragorn do win my favorite couple award because generally the movie had me so emotionally invested in all of the characters. So they win essentially by default, but I do have to add a disclaimer. On my first watch through, I did ship Alice in the Hatter. I was really into it the first time I watched it. I was also 15. And that's fantasy romances. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you liked it. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button here. I think I finally figured it out. It's here. Please hit that subscribe button. And as usual, over the next couple of days, I will be posting the notes that I took on each of these movies on my blog, so you can check that out in the description down below. I've also linked all of my social medias down there as well, so please check those out. And I post new videos on Thursdays. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!